was thinking, what is wrong with me when I was younger? Because why could other kids go home, do their homework, be done with it, get their A's and do great, and why would it take me 3 hours to do something? I do remember teachers saying things like, this is chicken scratch, referring to my handwriting, or just not being able to understand why I didn't understand what was on the board or why I wasn't getting the concepts.
And her papers would come home and her printing would be up in the air and down below the line. And the teacher would call me in and say, we don't understand, she's having trouble writing.
I remember a teacher making me stay after class to practice handwriting and printing and so on like that, because she just thought if I just did that, made that O one more time, that I would have it down. And I don't think she realized that there was probably something else wrong.
I used to skip words and when I was reading, but my mom said I was a good reader, and it took me a long time to do a paragraph. Like, it would take me an hour to write a paragraph when it would take 15 minutes for other children.
And then she would start getting comments on the side of the paper. Leslie, you're not trying, you need to try harder. She started to not answer all the questions, and I would say to her, Leslie, you know the answers to these questions. Why aren't you answering them? She said, well, they won't be able to read them anyway, so I may as well just not even bother.
I mean, I knew that I had some intelligence as a child. I just never was able to have the skills in order to do everything as well as I wanted to.
One day I was listening to the radio, and I heard a radio program, a talk show, and I heard them talking about vision, and they were talking about symptoms, and I'm saying to myself, this is Leslie, that's Leslie. And all of a sudden I said, this is what's wrong with her. Whatever it is they're talking about, this is what's wrong with her. It was the organization called PAVE, Parents Active for Vision Education. And we went and had her tested and found out that she needed vision therapy.
My parents have always been behind me from the get-go. So they've always been the ones that would sit there with me for 3 hours while I did my homework and listen to me cry while I was frustrated because I couldn't do my work. And they were the ones that my mom actually found the vision therapy for me. And I just graduated this past May from Scripps College up in Claremont, California. I was my commencement speaker at my graduation. I did really well. I actually wrote a 98-page thesis my senior year of college, and I was really excited by that. And it was actually, college was a really exciting time, and I learned a lot. It would have been horrible. I would not have enjoyed my college experience if I hadn't had some form of vision therapy. College is all about the skills that you have and training yourself and how to study and how to take notes, and you can't do any of that if your eyes aren't working properly, if you're missing out things on the lectures. It's really changed my outlook on kids, because I never look at a kid as if they're doing poorly in school. That's because they're lazy. There's probably always a different reason for it.
I think the number one thing that people do not understand is the difference between sight and vision. The difference is that sight is the ability to discriminate whatever it is that you're looking at. Vision is the comprehension and the processing of information that takes place after you've looked at it. It's completely brain.
So we are highly visual creatures, and therefore we think largely in visual images, not surprisingly. We are constantly doing a virtual reality in our own brains using visual images which we construct inside our nervous system.
There's no question that there are a large number of children who are diagnosed at some point during the course of their education as learning disabled. And I firmly believe that one possible cause for this is failure of the visual system to process information in a normal way.
This is something that you don't see. It's a hidden disability. Until you can recognize the symptoms, until you have that knowledge, you don't see. You don't understand how that child is struggling and the effort that goes into every single thing they do, every minute of the day.
I was a real happy-go-lucky kid till I had to start reading. And then all of a sudden life was a struggle. And I mean, it was a really big struggle. I didn't know that I wasn't seeing properly because, you know, all you have is what you have and nothing to compare it to. So, you know, I really didn't complain that much to my parents, but I did spend like probably 3 to 4 times the amount of time somebody would on homework.
Is there some reason that the child isn't getting the information? What are the other underlying kinds of problems? And at least in my experience, it's come down to so much of that visual process. If they're not seeing it, if they're not processing it correctly, then they're not going to be able to do it.
The teacher talked to me. She said, my son cannot read. My son cannot do his homework. And she said, your son is going to be retained because I think he's lazy.
I feel guilty because I was thinking that he was lazy.
I was so sad because I said, oh no, my son, because he's going to have more problems.
He was frustrated because going to school and you can't learn. And you go home and your dad is telling you you're lazy and you don't want to do anything.
She thinks my son, maybe I speak only Spanish in my house. Maybe that was a problem for him. But I said, no.
The vision therapy is great. I see the difference in my child, and I believe this works. My son is doing better in school, and I can see that. And I feel really proud.
I have two top things on my wish list that pertain to vision. One of them is getting our kids tested, having the whole battery of learning-related visual skills tested before a child enters school to see, are they ready to do the rigorous type of visual learning that we do in schools? And if you can pinpoint it when the kids are little, and if you can help them out when they're little, it just makes the rest of their school career so much easier. Otherwise, it's very cruel to send them on without the visual skills that they need. And the second thing, actually this is kind of tied for first place, but it would be educating the teachers.
Research shows that vision is more of a determining factor than socioeconomics for testing scores for their success. 1 in 4 children have undiagnosed and untreated visual problems. Many people don't understand how vision relates to learning.
I'm seeing a lot of kids now who can't copy from board to paper or from book to paper, and who can't remember what they just read.
People say sometimes, well, the reason that optometric vision therapy works is because the children get so much attention, one-on-one attention. But if they could see the files that come to the office that are, 2 inches thick for all of the different things that parents have done in the schools to try and help that child, you say they've had a lot of one-on-one experiences here. And it isn't that those things didn't work, but because vision is such a huge part of the whole sensory system, it's like if that part's not working, even the gains in the other, the auditory, the motor, the sensory integration, are going to be compromised until this vision is taken care of.
There's not a visual system, there's not an auditory system, there's not a vestibular system, but there's really one brain in there. And that one brain has to coordinate multisensory events. But vision, it's understood, becomes the hierarchically dominant system because it receives more information per unit time than any other system.
When there is a child in the home with a learning problem, it's not just that child that's affected. That child is affected, but the whole family is affected, so that all of the attention of the family is focused on that child, so the other children may get less attention.
We would actually spend 3 and 4 hours a night on homework, modified work in the classroom. All of the notes that were printed up on the board would be handwritten for him. And when we got into junior high, the same thing.
It was real difficult. And after going through the vision therapy, it was a miracle because he was able to function all of last year, basically on his own.
He could not write a coherent sentence in 7th and 8th grade, and now he can write. But he's amazing. It's just a miracle.
She's probably really happy that I can do it on my own.
By the time we put him through 6 months of vision therapy, he was actually reading 7th grade level. He was put into fully non-modified, mainstreamed work this last year as a freshman in high school, first year ever, after 10 years of modified work. no modifications, no dictation, no anything, in regular classes with no help, and he averaged a B-, which is just amazing.
Now when I think of my future, I think of going to college and training to be an architect.
These interventions are very successful, not in everybody, but if they're not given if the patient's not given the opportunity to pursue these, they'll never know. But in a large percentage of these individuals with these conditions experience tremendous resolution of their difficulty.
When I was in college, I was really noticing some extreme things like letters splitting in the middle and the print slanting. After vision therapy, it was just incredible. It's amazing because when your one sense is kind of out of whack, others don't seem as acute either. And it's sort of like I don't hear as well or I can't process as well if I don't have my glasses on and have the vision cleared up and that type of thing.
I think when children have their first exam, probably the most important part is that child then knows why they struggle. And that immediately lifts this tremendous load that they carry around with them, that they're not as good as their other students, that they're dumb, that there's something wrong with them.
The confidence level, I think, started to change right away when I found out that someone actually believed me when I said I couldn't read what was on the page, and believed me that it wasn't my laziness or some form of stupidity that was causing the problems I was having.
Number one is identification of what the cause of the problem is, and I think that's missed so often. A model program to me would be child comes in and we're going to forget about academics. If they've got a significant learning problem, we're going to forget about academics initially. We're going to begin looking at some of those developmental sensory motor training things. We're going to look at vision training.
Vision therapy from the outside looking in looks like games. What you don't know is that you're retraining the eyes and brain to work together efficiently so that someone can grab the information, bring it in, process, and then have an output that's okay.
Myself as a parent and other parents I've come in contact with, you do whatever you have to do to get the kids' needs met because you know that if it's not met, what's going to happen down the line.
I'd do it in a minute. I'd go borrow money. I'd do whatever it takes to do it. Because she has become so successful, and she just blossomed and bloomed after this. And those 2 years I suffered with her because I had to help her with her homework. And I get a little emotional here, but I saw her going downhill instead of up. And after that, she just blossomed.